Hello, my name is Jessica Bland, and I am a student at Waynesburg University. This presentation is in regards to the Veterans Breakfast Club. I watched an interview and video about Rick Witherell's service. Rick is from a small, rural community in Tionesta, Pennsylvania. I was interested in Rick's service because of his rural beginnings and his story. Rick's mother died when he was 9, and his father passed away when he was 16. He states during his interview his upbringing was closely connected to his community. Rick first served in the Cold War. Initially, he was turned down due to partial blindness in his left eye and a heart murmur. However, Rick contacted a friend and veteran who pulled some strings so that he could enlist. After serving in the Cold War, Rick decided he wanted to try civilian life. He met his wife, they got married. However, he still felt compelled to serve his country. He then went into the reserves, where he participated in the 298th Transportation Company. He also was involved in Nuclear, Biological, Chemical Warfare Division. It was during the Gulf War that the reserves were called in. Prior to deployment, Rick was completing a morale-boosting obstacle course with those of his veteran friends in the reserves. It was during this course that the ropes broke and Rick fell, injuring his back and breaking multiple ribs. He was 2 weeks away from being deployed. He was able to rest, and he ended up being deployed to Kuwait with his division. Rick's story is inspiring because I cannot imagine suffering from these physical injuries and still going forward with his deployment. This event speaks volumes to Rick's character and strength. Rick was obviously a physically strong individual. He remained committed to his service even after sustaining physical injuries that could have easily led to him staying home. His positive attitude throughout his entire interview speaks volumes about his personality. His strong sense of duty gave him physical strength at the time of these injuries that he required to carry on his duties in Kuwait. Rick does state that while serving in Kuwait, many people began to mysteriously fall ill. Rick states he suffers from severe neurological pain. He also states that he bleeds through his skin for no apparent reason after physically exerting himself, and he also has unexplained rashes. He states his wife opened his eyes to the way he was living. He had a negative attitude, he was just making it through the days, and she finally gave him an ultimatum to change his lifestyle. It was a true turning point for Rick. He says he quit feeling sorry for himself, and he identified that he had it better than others. Rick copes with his chronic pain condition by being involved in his church, involved in the community, meeting with other veterans, and being a scoutmaster. He identifies that by staying busy, it keeps his mind off his pain and allows him to cope with his physical ailments. During the video, Rick also states that he has never been able to lift his second child up into the air due to his physical ailments. For those that are not aware, Gulf War syndrome is something that many veterans who served in the Gulf War suffer from, and this is what Rick was and is still suffering from. The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs states that this syndrome is a prominent condition affecting Gulf War veterans and is a cluster of medically unexplained chronic symptoms that can include fatigue, headaches, joint pain, indigestion, insomnia, dizziness, respiratory disorders, and memory problems. Per Smith, McDonald, Norris, Buchall, and Sinclair, mental health is the most prevalent health concern of soldiers post-combat, and 40% of veterans experience some to extreme mental difficulties in adjusting back to civilian life. These authors also note that 25 to 45% of health-seeking veterans experience post-traumatic stress disorder. Veterans can experience a range of other comorbid conditions, such as mild to traumatic brain injuries and depression, based on the results of the 2010 U.S. Department of Defense Health Behaviors Survey. Increasing numbers of Afghanistan and Iraqi veterans participate in substance abuse, high-risk lifestyle, and parasuicidal and suicidal behavior. Rick states it was during the turning point mentioned earlier with his wife that he knew he could not turn to substances or self-pity to cope with the after effects of war. Per Brenda Elliott, veterans may have issues with guilt and shame over actions that occurred during wartime. Elliott suggests that nurses should be in tune to the spiritual and holistic needs of each veteran. Westfall and Convoy state only 41% of veterans who qualify for benefits from the Veteran Health Administration or the VHA are enrolled in VHA care. The remainder of veterans' health care occurs in civilian health care facilities. Understanding how military culture, policies, and research may influence mental health behaviors, help-seeking, and therapeutic relationships is important to the nursing practice in a wide range of settings. Healthcare practices are one area where military culture and military healthcare policies have a direct impact on the care and treatment across the continuum of care for both the healthcare setting and the veteran. And per Judy Carlson, it is critical that faculty competencies, teaching strategies, and the essential knowledge relating to the care of our veterans be delineated and taught to healthcare professionals in order for our veterans to receive optimal care. There are multiple ways going forward to assist veterans. Identifying veterans at risk who are not receiving physical and mental health interventions is important. This can be accomplished by becoming involved in the local veterans club. Also, organizing fundraisers for veterans is a great way to improve the quality of life financially for the veteran or with healthcare equipment. I would also be interested in speaking with the administrators at my place of employment about how we hire veterans. Do we hire them in the security department or other open positions? Is there advertising for veteran hiring? It would be a great way to assist veterans in finding work following their service. Providing not only veterans but everyone with a purpose each day is a great way to improve physical and mental health. How nurses can assist veterans. Identifying veterans on admission or a visit to the emergency room is very important. The VA healthcare system requires that a veteran be transferred to the nearest VA hospital if they have a bed available in order for their treatment to be paid for. If the VA hospital does not have a bed available, then the person at the transfer unit of the VA hospital will tell you that, and it must be documented who you spoke to at the VA hospital that said there are no beds available and that they would pay for the veteran's care within whichever civilian healthcare facility the veteran is at that point. Being mindful of local resources for veterans is a great way to help make the proper referrals for each veteran that comes into your healthcare facility. Assessing the history of treatment that the veteran has received is also a good way to kind of pull everything together and identify ways to better treat the veteran at that point. Assessing risk for depression and suicide risk. It's become a big thing within hospitals now to really assess suicidality in each patient, especially if you identify a person as a veteran, asking the proper questions. Have you thought about suicide? Do you have a plan? Would you move forward with a plan? And help the veteran in identifying reasons to live if the veteran is suicidal and coming up with a safety plan with the veteran and also getting them proper treatment, whether that be inpatient at that point or outpatient. Using therapeutic communication skills is great with every patient, but especially using active listening with veterans is very important. And then making a connection with veterans and expressing your concern, sharing your professional knowledge with them, and helping them navigate the healthcare system is important. Please note the resources used throughout this presentation. The Veterans Breakfast Club has many videos and interviews that are very interesting, and these people are local here in Pennsylvania, as close as Pittsburgh. And then also the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs has a lot of information that is great to use as resources and also to disperse to other people wanting to know about the resources for veterans. Thank you very much.